In on his life experience. There will be 14 old football players that he coached on stage with him. One of them will be introducing him. They will be able to talk about how he changed their lives, made it better, and how he could do it for everybody. I think it will be a big night for the governor, who we already know is quite jolly and happy. But is that enough to make a difference? Jolly is a beautifully deployed word because he does have a sort of old Saint Nick kind of jolly-ness to him. We talked to you yesterday in Milwaukee. What was that like? How much is Walz a part of that? Is it all love for the nominee? It was extraordinary because the arena was packed with 18,000 people. I have been to several rallies now with both Walz and Harrison yesterday. He cannot by himself before we laid eyes on the vice president, and the crowd was roaring. They were very welcoming, embracing of him. He does not have any problems when it comes to likability. We have a new poll that shows among registered Democrats, 60% are enthusiastic about Walz compared to 50% of Republicans for J.D. Vance. The question is whether that enthusiasm is going to make a difference when it comes to looking at the ticket. As you very well know, the vice presidential pick does not make that much of an impact on Election Day, but it could do harm right now. They're trying to prevent any kind of harm to get supporters to buy into Walz, to like them even more. It reflects back on the person at the top of the ticket, in the message they are trying to sell, which is what we will try to figure out. Final question. Your normal job is to cover the White House president, who should be the nominee. What role is Biden going to have in this campaign, if any? He already played the ultimate role, which is to step aside and allow the vice president to rise to the top of the ticket. It is not lost on the party that all of the delegates that will fill this room voted for Joe Biden. To that extent, he will continue to rally for her. He will participate in campaign events for her to try to relay the message that she will now take on my agenda, my legacy. She is his surrogate now. That support is incredibly important for Democrats who were excited about him and might not have been there yet for her. We do expect that they will continue to play a role. But after he appeared on night one here, he left. And that was in no mood. He is on vacation now in Southern California, just taking it all in because he has a lot to process. Still, even though he passed on the figurative torch, this was not easy for him. Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm John Dickerson in Chicago on the third day of the Democratic National Convention. For the past 2 days, delegates have stayed up well into the evening to hear from the party's last two successful presidential candidates, outgoing President Joe Biden and his former boss, President Barack Obama. Tonight, they will hear the first extended remarks from the current ticket-cum Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will introduce himself to Democratic voters as he formally accepts the party's nomination for president. Walz, a high school social studies teacher and football coach, turned congressman turned governor of a reliably Democratic state, will speak to the largest audience of his career. Also speaking tonight, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and the 42nd President, Bill Clinton, who, 32 years ago, was introduced to delegates as their nominee as the Man from Hope, the name of his Arkansas hometown. Hope also made a comeback last night in the remarks of former President Obama and his wife Michelle. We are feeling it here in this arena, but it is spreading all across the country. It is the contagious power of hope. I am feeling hopeful because this convention has always been pretty good to kids with funny names who believe in a country where anything is possible. Senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins me now to talk about the night of Tim Walz. What are we expecting from the Minnesota governor? We already know the governor's resume, which on paper is extraordinary, but he has to bring that to life and talk about his experience as a member of the National Guard, as a teacher, as a football coach, as a congressman, and talk about how that perspective could translate into helping Americans if that is what he wants to do. He will draw on his roots, growing up in Nebraska, on a farm, and talk about those values which we have heard snippets of already. I expect he will go deeper and talk about it more personally to try to allow people to look.